to Horror Madness with Deb and Dana. This episode is a little bit different. We dug into our vaults and pulled out our very first recording. We did not even have a name yet. We were not Horror Madness. We were just recording with our good friend Amber, talking about the movie Barbarian. So it is a little different than our normal podcasts, but I really do hope you guys enjoy it. If you want to find us, you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Horror Madness 93, and we are Horror Madness on Facebook. And you can email us at horrormadness93 at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you and love to engage. So, all that being said, I really hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, we're here with Amber
Hello.
and Madam Deborah.
Hello. We watched Barbarian.
Barbarian. What'd you think about Barbarian overall, Amber?
Overall, it's not like one of those classic horror movies where, you have your Michael Myers or your Jason. This was a movie that kind of went really deep with some of people's personality flaws, as you would call them.
Wow.
And the movie had a great way of creating how horror can be makeup and glam and blood and guts and all that, but at the end of the day, some horrors are actually within. We have our own horror stories. So I think the movie exacerbated how a lot of our horror within and darkness can be used as a real terror.
Wow, very well said. Very well said. Hey, old Debbie, what do you think about it?
Goodness, I don't even know how to follow that. No, it was as far as like, there's a great monster, there's a great antagonist, who's actually kind of empathetic and I don't think the protagonist is really the bad guy in this movie.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the point, I think, of the movie. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty freaking good.
Huh?
Yeah, that's my feelings on it. A lot of less words than Amber, but pretty much, it was a pretty good movie. All right, so that thing started off. We got that little shot where there's like the screams and horror and stuff going on, and then like as it gets close, it gets into the car, and like it just goes back to normal, which is recurring motif of clashing bright and happy and horrible things happening at the same time. So we get into the car and she's just like getting an Airbnb.
Yeah.
That's all she's doing. And there's no screams and nothing horrible. Her boy Marcus is calling. We never really find out who Marcus is. We can only assume that it's an ex-boyfriend or...
I kind of assumed it was an ex because she was like, quit fucking calling me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so I guess so, but it never really goes into that. Maybe it should have, maybe it shouldn't have, I don't know. Then we got a little pan out to Detroit, the little suburb of Detroit, but it's too dark and you can't see anything.
No, it looks like a nice little neighborhood. You see like the frames of the houses and the cars and the driveways. And
also, I feel like it's impossible to have driven there with headlights on and not seen what the entire neighborhood looked like.
Absolutely.
But whatever, that's cool.
She didn't want to drive with her brights.
Yeah, well.
Did you guys even pick up on the fact, and I think this reigns true, literally, but the element of rain itself brings on this extra deep dynamic, and anyone who's ever driven down a road and it's really rainy, you can't see. No. And everything is just glistening.
That's true.
But you can't really see. And it wasn't until the next day when it's, light outside that she's really realizing, oh, this is what this place looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still feel like I get what you're saying, but like still just driving down a...
Yeah.
Like, I've driven down some roads in Atlanta that were like the sketchiest places ever that I should not have been driving down. And at no point was I ever like, I don't know, maybe I'm in a happy suburb and this place is awesome. I was like, no, this is a shithole and I shouldn't be here.
And she even stopped in front of the house and was on her phone and was calling. And even after she went up to the door, like, she came back to the car and was looking around. And I feel like you would notice.
Right.
Despite the rain and despite everything, I feel like you would look around and be like,
But I know you're in a strange place, in a strange area. You're going to an interview the next day, and like, you know.
I think
you're in Detroit.
But I think the whole purpose was she was so fixated on finding this address, getting checked in. It was raining. You can tell that, you know, we have the ex-boyfriend or whoever Marcus is that's been calling her. So she's trying to also avoid that interaction too. So it just seems like she's trying to avoid any distraction, whether it was the physical neighborhood or whatever. She's just super focused on trying to check in, and she sees the lights on the outside of the house, and she's just trying to get checked in. So very much majority of the theme, I think, with that was that it was like she was so focused on one thing and completely disregarded and pay attention to anything else that would have been creepy.
Yeah, well, then you knock on the door, and it takes a few minutes to get somebody to answer the door, and they open the door, and it's fucking Pennywise. So that's the thing.
But that's kind of the point of the movie, is that it's a woman ignoring all of the red flags that she sees.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the director, Zach Kreger, had said, that, I don't know the quote, he said, I wanted to write a scene with as many red flags that a man wouldn't think twice about, but I would say every woman would recognize. A double-booked Airbnb and a woman cohabitating there or sleeping in her car. I had no idea where it was going to go, but I wrote the movie. You think you're watching that Keith is a bad guy, but then this giant naked lady comes out and smashes his head.
Well, that's a little bit of a spoiler early
no,
on there. Yeah,
sorry.
we're not at giant naked ladies yet.
No, we're not. But I was reading the quote because he said the whole reason he wrote the movie was like, so women have this intuition where they can tell when something's off, and this woman is just ignoring every red flag.
So she knocks on the door, it takes a minute, the light comes on, and he finally comes to the door.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that's a weird situation that could easily happen, and I think happens probably 100 times a day in real life.
It happened to us.
With double book stuff. We had a double book thing?
We had the double booked hotel in Atlanta.
Oh, that's right.
And we walked in, and there was luggage and people in our hotel room.
Yeah, that was super weird. But also,
super weird.
We didn't have to be like, hey, you guys just sleep on the couch and we'll just.
Yeah, no, because it was a hotel and we could just go downstairs to the desk. But if that can happen at a hotel, it could easily happen at an Airbnb.
That's true. So we get in the house. Yeah, I would have just been like, nah, bitch, get the fuck out of here. This is my house. I'm already in it. I'm already asleep. I mean, I'm not an asshole in real life, but
that's kind of how he was at first, though. He was like,
yeah, but he still like let her in and stuff, and I wouldn't have done that. I would have just been like, no, conversation over. I've already paid for this, and I'm in this room, and I don't know who the hell you are.
But she did too.
Yeah, but he didn't know that. She didn't know that.
She showed him.
I wouldn't even let her show me. I would have already been like, nah, bye.
What would you have done?
Well, I think once I would have realized when he said, well, I'm clearly booked here. I mean, his stuff was there. He clearly was already settled in the house. So me, as someone who spent money to pay for something, I couldn't reach out to the whatever company it was that she had booked the house through to stay. She'd leave a voicemail, and that would have, for me as a female, that would have just pissed me off. Like, it's raining, I'm tired, I've got my ex-man calling me that I don't want to talk to, I have this big interview in the morning, I think right there, I just would have cut my losses and said, okay, well, thank you so much. Got back in my car and drove to another hotel.
Well, she tried to get another hotel.
And that's another issue, too. It was the way that she did it. It's like, for me, when I look at a hotel, there's so many. And in Detroit, yes, it is a very challenging, trying to find a good enough area.
Yeah, she wasn't worried about areas,
exactly,
obviously.
so-
But also, like, it's downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that one medical conference filled every hotel in the entirety of downtown Detroit.
Well,
like,
she didn't even try after that. She called one hotel.
right.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, there's a conference. And she was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Which is another one of those red
before
flags.
that even happens, she walks into the bathroom.
Yeah.
We get our first super ultra close up of a toothbrush for no apparent reason. Our first of a couple three. Frickin' look at this toothbrush. It means so much. And maybe it does, and I just missed it. And like, I don't understand why that toothbrush was so important to zoom in on multiple times. All right, so we get a little zoom of his bag that may or may not have Astroglide in it. But
Yeah,
if
no,
it's
there
not Astroglide, I think it was still
Asper cream, maybe? It was an Asper
I
something.
think it was. I don't think it was branded Astroglide, but it was like Astra.
Yeah.
And
something.
then something that I think was meant to evoke the feelings of he had lube in his bag.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That's weird and shit.
First thing I picked up on, at least, but hey.
So yeah,
course it
at that
is.
point, I would have just gotten on one of the hundreds of websites that exist that tell
Kayak,
you how many
Expedia,
rooms. Right.
Priceline.
Like, yeah, why would you not? Why would you call a hotel? I wouldn't even call a
Just
hotel.
go
Why
to
would
one.
you call a hotel?
You would
Go
just
to
book
one.
it. You just go on your phone. You just
I
make
mean,
the
yeah,
reservation.
it would take all of 15 seconds to
Yeah.
check every hotel for 100 miles and see which one had an available
And
room.
to really know, well, I think it's maybe because I worked in the hospitality industry, but I've always known, which is why I would never call. If you ever call an establishment when there's, let's say, a lot of bookings, management is going to say, no, we don't have any rooms available because they're like going to freak out and not want to overbook. However, if you book online, they can't tell you no without finding another place to stay. They'll walk into the hotel. So there's all this other stuff that normal people wouldn't know that don't work for hotels. But needless to say, I would have just made the reservation somewhere else, even if it was outside of Detroit. And
Right.
Yeah,
would've
I would have been
made-
gone.
20, 30 minutes away.
I
Cool.
would have rather slept, in a McDonald's parking lot with all the lights blaring.
So I think this is the baseline of, what's her name?
Tess.
Tess. I think that's the baseline of Tess's stupidity,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, it's a horror movie, and like pretty much all horror movies are just based on the main characters
being
too
dumb.
stupid to do anything right. That's kind of like the first noting of, hey, she couldn't do anything intelligent if her life depended on it.
Yeah.
So then we got our sheet situation, which I feel like is a little bit weird. She's like, I'll sleep on the couch, and he's like, no, you'll sleep in the bedroom, and like not in question. Like, oh, that's cool, whatever. He's
He's a gentleman.
a gentleman, but like that's still a red flag. Like, who the fuck says some shit like that? It's probably creepy as shit.
Yeah.
But my issue here,
She was willing to sleep on the dirty ass couch. And
she's just gonna
like,
sleep on a dirty ass couch. That's fine, no worries.
But not
I
in the car.
don't sleep and use sheets.
Right, but if I'm getting in that bed, them sheets better be washed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay. So, whatever. So, he tries to make her some tea. She doesn't drink it.
I mean, I don't blame her.
I don't blame her. I wouldn't have drank it either. Like,
no,
at all, under any
absolutely not.
circumstances. And then she goes back to the bathroom again, I think. We get another close-up of the toothbrush for no
Yeah,
reason.
she was getting
Maybe,
ready
maybe not.
for bed, and
Yeah.
she kind of, because he had mentioned that he was gonna, maybe wash the sheets, and she, is like, it's whatever. And at this point, he is sitting very, almost creeper-like. The lights are on in the kitchen, but he's sitting with this weird look
In
on
the
his
dark,
face.
romantically.
With a small light
Well,
on
it's Bill Skarsgård.
with
I mean, that's just what he
two
looks like.
glasses for wine.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's very interesting because you kind of get a small few second glimpse of the laundry room, and there is no laundry being done.
I saw it
So-
spinning.
I didn't see
The
it
laundry
spinning.
was spinning in the machine.
It just looked completely, I don't know.
Yeah, it looks super empty.
Yeah,
But it showed the laundry spinning.
but
I mean, who knows? Maybe that was like a filming thing. Maybe there was no actual laundry in there.
We
and it
didn't
was
have
just,
any on set.
Yeah, but
just
like
turn
it
it
was
on. We got
Just turn
this.
it on. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, he just had the Keith, right?
Yes.
Keith had a way where he had a lot of mystique to him.
Mhm.
Like it always seemed like energetically you had this feeling that he was hiding something. But they're sitting and they're having, he wants to have wine and she kind of declines it.
No, she straight up declined
Yeah,
it.
she's just not really feeling having wine because it's interesting because she's so suspicious, but yet she's putting herself in a big bubble of suspicion and not really doing much about it. Like she's on guard, but if you're on that much guard, I would
wouldn't
never
be there.
stayed.
Yeah.
That to me,
Right.
to me that was just very surprising. And yes, it's a movie, but with all the suspicion that she was feeling, like you could just see Tessa's whole.
Well, that's the thing. with
I
the
would've
red
never been
flags.
there.
There's just red flags on top of red flags.
I
on
would have
top
been
of
like,
red
yeah,
flags.
no, cool, thanks,
And
I'm
then
out.
they bond because he's seen some documentary that there's literally no way he ever saw, and the odds that he's the person that he claims he is. Like, I don't know. I think the first logical thought there is, oh, you researched me before you got to this house before me. There's literally no way you saw this documentary that no one's ever seen, and you own this commune of people that I'm super into, that I'm not even from here, but I've heard of you and your people. Like, that is insanity.
It
Like,
is,
there's
but
no
that's
way
why
that would
he
happen.
says a scene from the movie. Because him saying, like, well, you should interview me. I've seen that movie, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, no way. And he's like, no, that one scene. And so he's obviously seen the movie.
Yeah, but that's such a crazy stretch that anyone would have seen that movie that would be in that house at the same
Yeah,
time.
no,
Like,
it is,
it's-
absolutely.
Then we got the one of my favorite scenes of the movie, which is the putting the duvet cover on the sheet.
Oh, I know you love that scene.
So me and Deb literally tried this. We literally attempted it in the exact same way that he does in the movie. Shit don't work.
It doesn't
Shit doesn't
work.
work at all. You
Nope.
can absolutely, positively not put a duvet cover on a sheet that way, no matter how hard you try, because we tried really
I
hard.
tried it, and Dana tried it.
It's
Neither one of
just
us could do it.
literally not possible and ridiculous. But, like, cool, whatever. So then they go to sleep.
Yep.
Dude's having crazy nightmares. You see the first inkling that there's something crazy going on as she comes out of the bedroom. The
Oh, when the door opens.
closes.
No, her door was closed. It
Oh yeah,
opened.
yeah. But she comes out and you see the basement door close and the darkness behind her there, which, like, I don't know. Also, I feel like probably hundreds of people have stayed at this house and they're not all dead.
Or maybe they are. But that's the thing. That's the
Like,
thing I was
no one's
wondering.
ever
Why
noticed
is
that
there
everyone that stays
why
here
are
is
there
dead?
no missing persons reports?
Well, because it's Detroit and an ACAB. And apparently Detroit has the worst cops. Period.
Well, I thought that was really interesting when her door opened and she woke up because clearly she had a lot in her mind. So she was probably light sleeping. If you were sleeping like dead as knock, she would have never heard that door open like that. But when she hears that Keith is having clearly a nightmare, she tries to bring comfort to him to kind of like ease him because it was a very intense nightmare. And she startles him to the point where he's vocal about it, like, hey, you scared the shit out of me. Like, what are you doing? And to me, that's not a red flag. However, it kind of speaks to, for me to say, okay, well, you clearly had a nightmare, whatever it was. Like, you are super, super, like, in this energy of, like, so incredibly, like, horrified. And it kind of almost alludes to the fact that, like I said before, he seemed to be a very mystique character and that he was hiding something about his life in some way. And I don't know, the nightmare to me kind of confirmed that more, that he does have his secrets of things that even haunt him. So, that he was probably dealing with. But again, these are all different little cues that you get intuitively as hints of something when you're interacting with people. So
that's the thing. At this point, I feel like I was like, no, he's the bad guy. Clearly, obviously, we're going super tropey, and he's just obviously the bad guy, and he's obviously the bad guy. I gotta say, this movie does pretty good on the trope situation. There's a couple of terrible ass tropes that they do a couple of times, but for the most part, that was one of the main things I liked about it. Was like things like the dude who's obviously the bad guy doesn't turn out to actually be the bad guy. Then we wake up the next morning, and she goes for her little interview, which is kind of the most pointless part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
But I guess it was set up, so we should roll with it that she's going to an interview, which kind of culminates in you're interviewing with some rich documentary maker. Stay at her place, get a hotel room.
Or just leave and go home. Your interview's over.
Yeah.
Bye. I'm going home. There was no need for her to go back.
See you sometime soon or whatever. She wasn't like, I will see you at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah, no, there's no reason.
And if she was seeing her at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, so where am I living now that I have accepted this job?
Exactly.
So she stayed in this Airbnb. There's no reason I would have left my stuff there to go to my interview. I would have brought everything with me, gone to my interview, and gone the fuck home.
Right.
For sure.
Exactly.
So then she gets back to the house, and we've got the homeless person scene, which means a lot later in the movie, but at this point, there's a homeless person chasing her down the street, screaming bad things that a homeless person shouldn't scream at you. Later on, we find out that what he's trying to say makes sense and is said with a good heart, but he doesn't say it.
No.
You don't, like... If I'm trying to stop you from dying,
get out of that house.
Right, I'm not going to be like, hey, girl, get out of that house. I'm going to be like, hey,
Come
girl,
to me.
you're going to freaking die.
Yeah.
Like, there's shit in there, and they're going to kill you if you're in that house. I'm not going to be like, hey, girl, come to me, get out of that house. Like, what the fuck? Why would you say that? Or, like...
Yeah.
Like, care or don't care. Like, don't say weird-ass, creepy shit for no fucking reason while attempting to save someone's life.
So she goes into the house and she packs all her stuff and is like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, but then she
pees.
She goes into the basement.
She pees. She has to get toilet paper.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The toilet paper situation. So she goes in the basement, which I feel like at this point, this first time, like, I would have done the same thing. You know,
go get
the door's
toilet
open,
paper,
you go get the toilet paper, come back up. Door's closed. Shit, fuck my life. Also, it's just a regular ass door. And a 60-pound, 4'3" woman could have kicked that door down. Yeah. It's just a regular door. Kick the door down.
She didn't want that extra fee.
Like,
she didn't want that damage fee.
She's double booked, and like they owe her a free stay anyway. Yeah. Like, fuck it, just kick the door down. The door,
and now she's locked in the basement. There's all.
It didn't have. It wasn't like dead bolted with an electrical lock. There's no reason to go sulk in the basement. And then we get our Rube Goldberg contraption. Oh wait, no, she finds the rope first.
Yeah.
First of all, what the fuck? Like, if you got a hidden door, why would you just have a big, huge, thick-ass rope just, like, sitting there in plain sight? There was a clear outline of a door and a huge, weird
rope coming out of
the wall that everyone can see.
I don't see a rope and be like, I'm going to pull it.
Well, so, I don't know. I would probably pull the rope, but...
You would have pulled the rope coming from the glory hole?
Yeah, definitely would have pulled that glory hole rope, I think. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Like, once the door opens, I think I would have been with her. Where like she's like, nope,
Yeah, no,
which
she is.
I think is the worst thing in the entire movie.
Nope.
Like she like logically and smartly looks through the dark doorway and says nope and just sits down and then spends the rest